How do we remember the past? Well, the city reminds us. But what stories rest within the walls and roofs? What truths remain in the stones beneath our feet? Stories of civilization, of pain and joy, of longing and love. Those moments are worth preserving. The city is a culture frozen in time. And yet, it's not frozen at all. When we interact with it and connect to it, we become a part of its story. And when we connect to it, its story becomes a part of us. Istanbul, well, it is an ancient city. Roman, Byzantine, Ottoman. For nearly 2,000 years, 3 empires fought for her to be their capital. What we have today is a modern city, sculpted by the diverse influences of its past. And at the center, the Grand Bazaar. This was the first shopping center in the world. It is the oldest and the largest, and it is still being used today. Its construction started in the winter more than 500 years ago. Since then, it has blended together the old and new, tradition with modern life.
Working here is quite different.
Like very old is it, the Grand Bazaar.
We are from actually east part of Turkey, but we moved to Istanbul many years ago. Our family is 7th generation, but I am here like more than 7 years. Yeah, we are working like very hard since like morning 9 till 7. But
Like 7:30 I will open the shop and 10 o'clock I will close. Every day is like that.
But it's a beautiful place because people comes here just to see the history.
I learned this process, this job in Egyptian marketing.
You are happy, you know. This is most important thing.
26,000 people work in the Grand Bazaar. There are, of course, challenges in the continuous use of a structure that has stood for over a half a millennium. Not only this, the bazaar has experienced many fires, earthquakes, and political unrest. Yet, still it survives. It has survived not in spite of the people inside who use it, but I think it has survived because of them. Arriving in Cappadocia feels like traveling to another world. The ground is an ocean of cone-shaped peaks formed from violent volcanic activity. And more than 5,000 years ago, people began to construct their cities below the surface. Today there are around 250 underground settlements. These shelters had areas for sleeping, stables for livestock, wineries, ventilation shafts, communal rooms, and tombs. The shelters were not just built to escape the blazing sun, they were to escape each other. Cappadocia was on the Silk Road, which could be a dangerous place to live. Subterranean cities helped to keep its people safe. Narrow tunnels forced any size of army to move in a single file through the darkness. The region became a safe haven for Christians who would be persecuted by the Roman Empire. As a result, there's an estimated 400 sanctuaries and underground churches.
He's my grandfather from my mother's side, and this is his wedding. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, it's a picture I found on National Geographic. But I'm sure he also had a similar wedding. Even when he was like 1992, he was going for farming. So this is my grandfather's house. Yeah, this is a family house. It's a traditional family house. It's like very similar, just like any other houses in Göreme. Before it was only this part, only the cave rooms, and these rooms added, I guess, on 1940s. These rooms.
The rock in this region is made of tufa. This material is very soft and easy to carve, which made cave shelters the most practical choice.
Cave rooms are very efficient in winter. It's a good storage for the food. It's really cool during summer because summer is really hot here. So cave rooms are always popular in this area. For the families, for tourism industry, for the business, for anything else. 2010, I decided to run this business and to change this building into a hotel.
Perched high up on the edge of an active volcano, overlooking the Aegean Sea, on the blank white buildings with blue domed roofs. Something special is about to happen. The Art of Motion, sponsored by Red Bull, is taking place. This is the most prestigious parkour and free-running competition in the world, and for the last 5 years, it has taken place in the cliffside town of Ia, on the island Santorini. The oldest signs of human settlements on the island dates back to 4,000 years. Even to the Roman emperors, these cave dwellings would be ancient. So how is it that these buildings do not get destroyed, with hundreds of people climbing and jumping across every surface? Well, they do get damaged. But in Santorini, when a historic building begins to deteriorate, it does not mean the end of its life. It is repaired using materials and techniques that are consistent with the ancient ones of the original structure. In this way, the buildings can live on indefinitely, continuously being used and enjoyed.
When we think of ancient structures that are still being used today, perhaps what we think of is the stadium in Athens, which hosted the modern Olympics thousands of years after hosting the ancient ones. Or maybe the Greek theater at Ephesus, or the Odeon of Herodotus Attikos. These places were built to express the desires of a culture, to connect through art and music and sport, impermanent moments living in a structure of permanence. The amphitheater in Pula was built for gladiatorial combat nearly 2,000 years ago.
It has always been loved. All the different rulers that came through Pula loved it.
Today, it is still used as a stage for theatrical productions, films, ceremonies, and concerts.
Of course, if you would like to completely do preservation, then nobody would use it. Because every time that there is some manifestation, there is a small fragment of stone that is scratched or broken, and of course we report it, but when you broke, it's broken. You can pay for it, but it is a historical building. It is very difficult to find the midpoint between what people want and what you want and what the structure wants. I mean, I think he wants to stay up this amphitheater.
The amphitheater is part of the town of Pula, and of Croatia, and of the wider world. It still retains a vivid memory of the past, yet simultaneously engages with and makes new meaning for the present.
How to put a value, how to decide that something is valuable to conserve for future generation, it's very difficult. You have to see if it has some other values that connect it to the history of people of that particular region. Because I think what is most important is that people can relate to the object and understand how it was functioning. The object should tell a story.
These examples, they're everywhere. Throughout time, throughout the world, they show that everything changes and transforms, but we can embrace this change and still preserve our heritage. Meaning grows, it evolves, and the story continues to be written. The story of an ancient wall that feeds a city, or a Roman temple submerged in water, or a castle town sheltered by sea and rock, or an underground world seen from the sky. Our stories are written in the brick and mortar, in the crack of cobblestone and sand of the arena. When we connect to the city, we become part of its story. And when we connect to the city, its story becomes part of us.